The men that I've talked to, they're very receptive. I think what I'm coming across is that they're looking, they're searching. It's a spark, and the thing is that there it's a lot of things that we do don't do as men. We don't express. We just keep going forward until we just fall apart. And I think is they're searching, and when they search it, and then they find what they're seeing, and that's the healing part where they have to try to unravel things, of making sense to the world and in the energetic world as well.
Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Beitz. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons. My guest today, Eric L.G. Longoria, is a retired sergeant of the United States Army who honorably served 3 tours in Iraq before transitioning to civilian life. He earned a business degree and held several managerial positions until he left the traditional workforce for entrepreneurship. After exploring energy, frequency, and body-mind connections, Eric found deep personal meaning in becoming a certified intuitive life coach. Guided by faith and intuitive skills, he uses his vast life experience as a breakthrough coach, helping others reconnect with their true selves. He highlights his inspiring story of transformation in his international best-selling book, Ignite Your Purpose. Eric collaborates with a global team of subject matter experts looking to spark some hearts and help individuals discover their unique potential. Eric, again, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Doug?
Yeah, good, mate. Very good. And why I said welcome there is Eric was on the podcast about 18 months ago, episode 45, I think it was. And this one's about to be episode 110, I think, somewhere around there. So what have you been up to, Eric, since then?
Ooh, a lot of things, man. I think after I graduated from Atmata, went on there, and then it turned into me writing a book. And then I ended up writing a book for my transformational story. And once that happened, things just started unfolding. Connections started happening. I started really connecting with people, coaching groups, and it's been amazing. And definitely, like when I say spark some hearts, it's happening.
Yeah. And how Eric and I connected is we both attended the same intuitive life coaching academy, but Eric decided to join up a couple of weeks or a month or so after I graduated and left. And then I saw him on the Facebook group, and I sat through there with 30 ladies and just me as one guy. And I'm thinking, man, where were you for the last year, And anyway, so we hooked up after that. And I think we had like I said, do you want to jump on a Zoom call and chat? And that went for an hour or two. And then it's like, yeah, man, let's do a podcast. And yeah, wow. All right. What do we got here? So during our last interview, I asked you about trusting your intuition. So we're 18 months further down the track now. Is it easier or harder for you now to trust your intuition?
It's definitely, I think it's me now. It's embodied within myself now. I think after I started going through my own healing journey and start unraveling the clutter that I've been going through in my entire life, from military to childhood, even to now, and started understanding who I am and finding who I am in my own skin. I started realizing that we're both energetic and the physical world. And once I started understanding that, I started gaining more clarity, and that I've been using intuition my entire life. And once I realized that I was using intuition my entire life, then it's a part of me. It's designed within myself. And I kind of looked at it. I try to use a lot of analogies from the military to make sense of, you know, uh, the world, And I realized that how you disassemble and assemble a weapon, it's like I understood the physical stuff of our body, you know what I mean? Working out, doing physical stuff, but I didn't really understand the inner workings within ourselves. And I realized that intuition is a part of ourselves. It's embedded in us, and we are into where we transmit and we receive and we ground. And once I started realizing that that's how we function as a human being, not only in the energetic but the physical, but as a part of us. That's how we're supposed to be. We're like spiritual beings living in a human experience in a way where if we were taught that from the beginning, we would be walking in our own authentic self.
Interesting. So talking about the military there, how old were you when you joined?
I was 19 when I joined the military.
Yeah, well, yeah, and actually, when I became a professional firefighter, I just like 2 weeks before turned 19, and I actually think I was a little bit too young, and I was certainly the youngest in our recruit class. And how did you find joining at that age? Was that typical age?
Yeah, I think, I think, I don't know. I just felt, I guess my intuition knew that college wasn't the thing. And my dad was a Marine and a retired firefighter as well. And he's like, you know what? I was like, Dad, I'm thinking about going in the military. He's like, you know what? I did the army. You know what? Why don't you go do the army thing? And I was like, all right, Dad. So I decided to go that route because I felt that that was best suited for me than going to college.
Right, yeah. And man, yeah, like talk about you, all you Americans just love your college. I became a professional firefighter at 19. I'd already been in the workforce for 4 years. I'd done an apprenticeship as a locksmith, and which was good. It gave me a few, I mean, I had some physical motor skills, like I knew how to use tools and things like that. I had a trade up my sleeve, but yeah, I couldn't wait to get out of school, man. Like 15, bang, I was out of there and just got a full-time job and loved it, like, and I was learning heaps of stuff and yeah, a lot of people skills. Or after a month, the both of the other staff went out for a couple of hours and I was stuck in the shop and I had real customers. I'm 15. I got real customers bringing broken locks to me, here, fix this. And I'm like, you know, the boss will be back later, like trying, like dealing with real adult human beings who were in a hurry, like I grew up pretty quick. I tell you, I'd come back and I'd promise them all sorts of things. And the boss would look at me and go like, I can't fix it in that amount of time, mate. When they come back, you're going to go out the front and you're going to tell them that you were wrong. And I'm, wow, yeah. Grew up quick. Yeah, yeah. And then as soon as I turned 17, got my driver's license, the boss just handed me the keys to the work van with all the gear in and a couple of sheets of paper. And he said, go to these addresses, fix these locks and do stuff. And I'm like, oh wow. Now I was turning up out on the street doing that. So yeah.
It's pretty cool that you mentioned being a locksmith because my dad, his specialty was unlocking vehicles. That was his thing. Yeah,
Wow.
and I remember when I was a kid, I used to go visit the fire station, go in the lounge, hang out where all the food's at. You know what I mean? Play with the jaws of life and all the equipment as a kid. And
Yep.
he had this Slim Jim that he made and he developed back
Yep.
then. It would use and try to, unlock people. They did it for free. That's something they offered. If anybody was locked out or whatever within the area, they would go and go out there and help. Do their own community service and helping people out out of
Yeah.
vehicles.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, well, so we always learned to like pick locks and things like that. But one
Yeah.
day, one of our guys, he was at the local, I don't know what you call it, the local dump tip, where everyone takes their rubbish. And he saw this folder and it was there and it had in Australia, we have, I don't know, I presume you have auto clubs in the US,
Mm,
if your car breaks down. Yeah, so
yeah.
we have the RACQ, which is the Royal Automobile Club of Queensland, like our state.
Mm,
And he saw this thing and it was this folder there and he sort of just picked it up and someone had dumped it and he opened it up and it's all of these tricks that the auto club do to unlock cars because they don't know how to pick locks. And the Slim Jims, like you were saying, and it was
yeah.
like a treasure trove of all of these things that they had done because we would pick those. So we actually like started doing it because some of them were quicker and easier because some of
Mm,
the European cars
mm.
were very secure and yeah, yeah, cool. And so your dad, after he left the Marines, he became a firefighter, did he?
Yeah, he did. He retired as a firefighter as well.
Wow. Nice. Nice. There you
And
go.
he has intuition too. I remember when I was a kid, he would teach me certain things when because we grew up in a bad neighborhood or it was gangs and whatnot, and he's always telling me about intuition, about the pineal gland, about meditation at an early age as well. So that stuff started opening up when I was a kid.
Wow. So he knew about the pineal gland way back then.
Yeah, the thing is, he didn't. Like I said, there was no internet. Like you know what I mean. Like you had to go to the library back then, and I remember he called it a peanut. He's like, son, we have this like little peanut in our head. I'm like, peanut, dad, what are you talking about? It's like a peanut, and if you meditate and you say things and you can sense, you can see things and whatnot or whatever. And he was doing his best to describe what it was. You know what I mean? And that was I think I was about fourth grade. I got jumped when I was a kid. I got beat up pretty bad, and my dad started teaching me how to defend myself. He's a Marine, so he started teaching me how to fight, how to defend myself. And he would walk me through alleys and say, "Hey, I want you not to see, I want you to hear." He started teaching me about my peripheral vision, start hearing, smell, using the senses, and even a little bit of meditation of what he knew and understood of it. And that's what got me into watching Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, watching the meditation, how they do it. And then as a kid, I would try to mimic it as a little kid, you know? So yeah, pretty interesting.
Wow. And man, you mentioned Bruce Lee. That's like, yeah, like, I can't believe you had a father like that. That's, yeah, wow, that's really cool. But yeah, Bruce Lee, like, he's just the coolest guy. I can remember, because I'm considerably older than you, going to our Saturday morning matinee at the local cinema. And, 10:30 in the morning, there'd be a Bruce Lee movie on. And because there's no VCRs or anything back in
Hmm.
my day, I'm 60, and when I was like in elementary school, Monday morning, we would all be just couldn't stop talking about the Bruce Lee movie we saw, Fists of Fury, Enter the Dragon, and those sort of things. He was, and about a year ago, I did a bit of a search and I bought up a few Bruce Lee movies, and yeah, some of the authentic Chinese masters might have thought he was not such a cool dude, coming to Los Angeles or whatever, but I was pretty happy to watch him.
And what's so interesting about Bruce Lee is that he brought martial arts to the U.S. and everyone was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And everyone was mad, and it was something due to the martial art industry, and he really went beyond the boundaries and what everyone was telling him, right? To know that hey, everyone there's more to what meets the eye on what we can do as human beings. And I kind of see intuition like that. Intuition is coming into where it's like a change, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what is this?" But it's something that we've always has always been a part of us.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he really showed using his spidey senses, like Spider-Man, like being very aware of what was going on around him.
Hmm.
And yeah, actually, that
Even
just
if even even his analogies, if you watch some of his, if you go back and watch Enter the Dragon or some of the films, he starts talking about emotions. He starts talking about certain aspects that if you compare, if you go back and look at it, you can actually tie it to how we intuitively feel things and see things and do things.
yeah. And in that sporting world, and I guess because he was so muscular and so, yeah, and in the movies, I mean, they probably made him look like he could do more than he could do, do those backflips and run around the walls and do sort of crazy stuff. I guess it made those spidey senses seem a little bit out of touch for us more
Hmm.
normal human beings. If you were able to reach that Bruce Lee status, we might get that as well. But now, like you say, we're starting to realize that even though you and I don't have bodies like Bruce Lee and we don't, train 12 hours a day, we can still tap into those spidey senses and things.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah. Actually, I was flicking through on YouTube yesterday, watching something, and then you know how YouTube brings up on your phone like another video underneath it that it wants to play next, and you've
Hmm.
got no control really of what that is. And it came up, and it was a video I'd seen before of a female reporter interviewing a baseball guy, and it said down the bottom 12 years ago. But it's one of those classic ones where the baseball player's got he's facing the camera and his back is on the baseball diamond, and the batter hits the ball and it just flies and it's about to hit the head of the female reporter, and the guy just turns around, throws his mitt up and just catches the ball, like, and he does, I mean, it's coming from behind him, and his spidey senses were so on, he basically saved this woman from being knocked out or worse with the baseball, like, it's like, whoa, how did he do that?
You know what's so interesting about that?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen what you're talking about. You know his name, right? The baseball player's name is Evan Longoria, and my last name is
That's
Longoria.
that's why it came up, because I was searching stuff with you. Yeah, that's what I was flicking through yesterday. Yeah, yeah. Evan, and the
Yeah, Evan.
surname
Yeah,
surname spelt the same.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So he's your first cousin or something?
Yeah, something like that. Even Longoria is somewhere in my family tree too as well. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. You taught him how to do that? Yeah, no worries.
No, I think it's genetics. I think it's what it is.
Right. Your dad taught him that. Yeah, right.
There you go.
Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. So in your coaching sessions now, like intuitive information coming through, does it come through? If so, is it helpful? Do you mention it?
You know what? I use it as a guide. Like I said, I there and I hold space for people and I start getting information. It's more like it's like a shepherd leading them to their own self-realization. And it's been working really well. And I've been, traveling around the world and I kind of see myself imagining like this traveling coach, you know what I mean? Like going on these adventure journeys, but at the same time coaching and helping people with their own realization. I don't know. I've always seen like a little series and playing in my head, and it's been really amazing because it's not only been in my area, but it's been pretty much around the world as well too, either in Zoom or traveling as well.
Hmm. And so do you think, I mean, since I last talked to you about this sort of stuff 18 months ago, do you think men are becoming slowly more acceptance of intuition?
The men that I've talked to, they're very receptive. I think what I'm coming across is that they're looking, they're searching. It's a spark, and the thing is that it's a lot of things that we do don't do as men. We don't express. We just keep going forward until we just fall apart. And I think is they're searching, and when they search it, and then they find what they're seeing, and that's the healing part where they have to try to unravel things, of making sense to the world and in the energetic world as well. But they are receptive and they're ready and they're waiting, and they're really looking, and that's why it's like I know it's out there, and that's one of my passions and my mission is not only in men, but it's everyone. I really feel like we're all a network of connection, meaning energetically, and I really feel that it needs to be worldwide. It needs to be global because I really feel like this is how we function. It's like taking something that we're born with away, and I feel like once that comes back into us and how we were designed, I really feel that that's gonna be life changing for individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just finding myself that men in particular are something softened in them a little, where they're just, even if they're not familiar with their intuition or the term or what happens at all, they're just a little bit more open to listen and to think about it and not reject it. The wall doesn't go straight up, or they pull the wall down, or they're willing to punch a hole through the wall and look.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, all right. Whereas maybe 5, 10 years ago, they might have scoffed at it and just the wall went up and they just wandered off, or they were in a daze and had no concept of what you were talking about. So it's, for me, I'm finding people are more open to the whole thing. I know it's like an energy shift on the planet or what it is.
Correct. Yeah,
Um,
and I think that's what it is. There's an energy coming, there's an energy shift continuing to come and continuing to grow. And that since we're energetic beings, I really feel that that is sparking interest, that is sparking openness. And it's like a tug of war that's going on within oneself. And I feel the more we reach out there, the more we can help get them to understand that. And another thing I realized during my journey too, a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. And it's about
mm,
informing them and getting them to understand what they don't know. They go through the hamster wheel, they go through the rat race in the world, and they feel like, oh, it's money, it's success, is going to make everything better. And it's like there's a little carrot that they can never find. And then when they realize a lot of it is this themselves, they are the treasure, they are the abundance, they are the wealth, and it's finding that within themselves. I think that's where there's more to meets the eye.
absolutely. Yeah. All right. So, what sort of things do you do yourself to light you up? Like, what lights you up? What feeds you oxygen? What sparks you in life in general?
I think what sparks me in life is knowing that one, it's not about me, it's more about me connecting with people and how I can help them come up with their own realizations to change their journey and their adventures in their own life. And that's how I wake up every day saying, hey, who can I spark today? Even if I'm at the gym or if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm at the restaurant, I make an effort to connect, to smile, to say how you doing. Hey, that shirt looks nice. You know what? You look great. Oh, look at your hair. Like I don't even know these people, but I really feel that people just need to be loved on, not in a weird way, but you know what I mean. Like look, well, people notice other people, and I think once we start becoming genuine like that, I think that itself it's an impact within its own.
Yeah, that human connection, like you're saying, just with strangers, it's we need it. Like there's so many studies in the world of, people during wars, during COVID, all this sort of
Mm,
stuff where they're isolated from other people. It's not healthy in many ways, mental health, physical health, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so to just be and even if you don't have a lot of people you can sit and talk to all day, if you are around strangers at the mall or at the store, and you've got a 10-second engagement while you're pulling out your card and paying, but you make a comment, a polite comment or a smile or whatever. It's yeah, or just walking down the mall, people walking the other way and you just smile and nod. And yeah, I do it out the front of my house now. I'm on acreage and we've got a national park up the road, about a mile and a half, a really nice one. We get a lot of traffic going up to it. And, if I'm out with the dog, she's doing a thing and I've got her on the lead to keep her off the road. And I'm always like nodding and waving and smiling to all the people going by. And I realized a couple of years ago, probably 10 miles from our house, still on a country road going elsewhere, there's an elderly gentleman and he looks like he'd be in his mid 90s. He can very like getting kind of hunched over and walking very sort of difficulty,
mm,
but beaming with a smile and waves to every single car that goes by. And I hadn't seen him for about 6 months, and I thought, oh, he must have passed on. And then I saw him about a month or so ago. And, because we're driving along in the car in summer with the aircon on, and I'm like hitting the button to put the
yeah.
window down. And my wife's like, what are you doing? And I got my arm out the window and I'm waving to him crazy because I hadn't seen him for so. I was so happy to see him. I've no idea who the guy is. No idea. He's probably an old pioneer from one of the old pioneer families. Now, I do not know. Like I couldn't say to anyone, haven't seen this, Jimmy or whatever his name is, because I don't think anyone knows who he is. But
Yeah.
everybody waves to him because and he's, that's what he does. He just waves. It just lightens your day. It's like, oh, I feel better now because he literally transferred some of his happy energy to
Yeah.
me by way. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to be that guy that when people drive past my house, because there's, only probably 1 in 50 cars that go past are residents who live up the street because there's so many tourists go up and down there.
Mm,
So,
mm.
in the beginning, I wasn't waving because I knew it wasn't the neighbors, but then I think, yeah, I don't know who these people are. Just wave, be happy, be friendly,
Yeah.
and pass some of my happy energy to them.
Yeah, most definitely. And I got a cool story about that. I went to go travel to do a presentation for a group. And as I was on my way back, I was in the airport and I met up with one of the persons that I did a presentation for, and we ended up taking a picture with my book. And well, I had to ask someone to go take a picture. So I found this lady and her daughter, and I was like, "Hey, you mind taking a picture of us?" And she's like, "Oh, cool. Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, this is a book. I'm an international bestseller, and I'm taking a picture. Made it real quick. And then so she took a picture, and he's like, "Well, can I get a picture?" And I'm like, "Okay, I got another book." So I gave her a book, and we took a picture, and there was a guy sitting by himself in the corner, and he's poking around, and he goes, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just. I go, "Would you like a picture? You want a book?" And he's like, well, I don't got no money. No, I go, "Here, I'm just giving you a book." And when I gave him that book, a tear came out of his eye. And I'm like, "You all right?" And I showed him the book and it says Ignite Your Purpose. And he's like, "Oh, I just put in some money to be a relationship coach and I don't know if it's gonna make it. I just feel so much pressure." And I sat down with him and I talked to him. And then he was like, hey, can you send a prayer for me? And I sat there in the airport and I prayed for this guy. And then he's like, can I pray for you? And I was like, yeah, pray for. And as we're doing that, people were like, what the heck is going on? It was just like a there you go, energy, boom, boom, boom. And I thought, and that was a cool perspective for me to see the synchronicities and how the chain of events can occur just by connecting and being genuine with people.
Yeah. And you hear people who can see auras, or some people see music. I mean, there's not a whole lot of them, but some people do. And so if they were watching that scene, they would
Yeah.
literally watch the colors change, the connections
Mm-hmm.
move. Like it would be like all the different colors of the rainbow sort of flowing, and it would have been crazy to watch it all happen. Yeah, yeah.
And what's crazy about the one not crazy, but what's interesting about the colors you talk about? Have you ever looked at the sun when it comes up for the first 30 minutes?
Well, I guess I have. Yeah. Wait.
But if you actually really stare at it, you can actually see the colors of the chakras, the colors.
Right.
And that was like, wait a minute, aura, the colors. I think there's a connection between what people see as far as aura, similar to what the colors you see when the sun comes up. That's to
Right.
me putting things together.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. Actually, I had a crazy at the previous house we lived at. We had a on the eastern side of the house, we had a swimming pool that was a little higher than the house. We had one of those glass fences, and at certain times of the year, this early in the morning, the sun would hit the bottom of that piece of glass, and like bring these rainbows in onto the floor. And one day, I've got the craziest photo. If I send it to you, you'd go, that's photoshopped, man. And I'm like, it's super real. And I've moved my feet, and I've got fairly big, like US, I got size like 13 feet. I moved them into this like rainbow, and I got my phone and took a photo of it. And my feet are like engulfed in the brightest rainbow, like it's just, and it's super bright. It's just from the spectrum of the sun coming
Yeah.
through the bottom of one of those like 3/8 of an inch thick piece of like glass, and it was yeah, pretty crazy, like what's sort of out there and what's seen. And then there's all the others, and that's the crazy thing that's there. They say that we only see like a tenth of a percent of the light spectrum of and
Hmm.
that's the amount of energy and things and stuff that are
Hmm.
out there that. And this is what's happening, like we were just talking about with intuition.
Yep.
We're starting to our, well, I'm going to loosely use the word eyes, because it's not, but our spidey senses, our whatever,
Yeah.
are opening up to these other frequencies, and we can start to see glimpses of other spectrums. We're hearing, sensing, because
Hmm.
that's where these intuitive messages are coming through from. It's exciting.
No, correct. And it's amazing how your lenses change as you grow within yourself. And as your lenses changes, your spectrum change as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So now you're a husband and you're father of three boys, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, I am. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And after my own heart, I got four boys, so I love all those. But how old's your youngest?
He's five.
Five. Well, mate, I warn you, I've got a 9 year gap between my third and my fourth son. So who knows? Yeah. So intuition as a husband, as a father, easy, hard when it's, like do you find it come through? Do you use intuition as you interact with your family? Are you game?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting. I teach intuition to my three kids. Like and actually they're the best teachers, really, because they're actually helping me how to change the terminology to where they can understand. Because if they can understand it, then anyone can understand. So when I like do my presentations or put it to them, I like present to them, and they're like, "Well, I don't understand that, Dad." So I kind of like, well, I try to change it up, talk it out, use metaphors or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I get it, Dad." I'm like, "Okay, so now if you guys can understand it." everybody else can understand it. That's my perspective, but they're enjoying it, and I remind them every day, kind of like what my dad did when I was a kid as well. Starts teaching them about their senses, teaching them about intuition, teaching them about the energetic, the quantum physics, the heart brain coordinates, and how we understand emotions. The best I can. Like I said, it's some days it's a foul, you know what I mean, and some days I'm working on, and sometimes they're receptive, but they're like, hey dad, I think my intuition. I'm like, oh, so they're using the word, they're understanding it, and it's cool because they're at the well, my son, my oldest, he's in fourth grade, about the same time I started learning too. So it's pretty cool to me. I'm doing the same thing with them, which is pretty interesting.
Interesting. Interesting. Actually, that's a great tip for everyone just on everything when you're communicating, dumbing things down. I've got a app on my computer that I can't remember what it's called now, and it's for when you're writing things, and it helps you, dumb down and simplify your grammar, and it
Mhm.
puts a suggestion on the side of the screen of what year level you're talking to, and their recommendation is sixth grade, that for all adults, we should write at a sixth grade reading level,
Mhm.
like a sixth grader would be able to
Yeah.
understand it. And because sometimes it'll just come out and it'll say, like, year 12 or college or whatever, like it's too complicated, like or it'll actually individualize certain sentences, like,
Yeah.
and it'll highlight this sentence is 12th grade, this sentence is fourth grade, like, and it's like to try and get, and the aim is to dumb it down, dumb it down, dumb
Mhm.
it down,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
so people can just quickly read it. And I remember listening to a university professor talk on a podcast once, and she was talking about this. She goes, the time that I get to read like a lot of stuff is like after 9 p.m. at night. That's when I get time to read emails and she goes, if they're too like highfalutin, she goes, my brain's gone. I'm a university professor, but I'm a human being,
Yeah.
and my human brain's shot. And if it's dumbed down and really simple and basic, I can still get it, at that time of night. So yeah, that's a really good tip. Run it by your kids, and if they can understand it, yeah, you got a good chance of a
Yeah.
normal adult understanding it.
And they're learning too, and they're teaching me ways too, and they're getting. I think my oldest had a hit on the clear gusted as far as the knowing on a certain thing he was doing, and I was like, there you go. He's like, Dad, I used my intuition, I have this, and I'm like, there you go. We talked about it, I wrote it down, and like, yeah, that's an intuitive hit. So he's all excited, like, ooh. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I always do some things. There's this place called Telegraph Path that we climb up, and I utilize that little hiking trip to symbolize how we go through life. It might be rocky, and maybe there's hills, there's up and downs. You might feel tired, you might have to take a break here and there. But when we get to the top, then you can see what you've accomplished or what goals you met. So I'm always trying to find ways to teach my son, but at the same time, it's incorporating me to how to also teach others as well.
Mm, yeah. I was just thinking, like, before you were talking about your dad teaching you thing, and I'm thinking, gee, I wish my dad taught me stuff like that. And then I remember, when I was about 8, um, I like he was raised as a fisherman. Like he and his father and brothers used to have a rowboat, and they'd paddle out and drop a net all the way around and net fish. And so he was right into fishing. And he took me out fishing in the boat one day. And usually we fished from the bank, from the shore, with cast out. This day, Dad bought a little aluminum boat, and out we go. And we're now trolling very slowly. We've got these little shiny lures with like 3 hooks on the end.
Mhm.
And because we're moving slowly through the water, the lure keeps pulling all the time. And I'm used, when that happens from the bank, it's a fish, and Dad's going to leave it out. And I go, Dad, how will I know when I've got a fish on? Valid question, because it's constantly
Yeah.
physically feeling like I've got something, like all the time. It's tugging. And he
Yep.
goes, and at the time I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, you will know, you'll sense it in your water. And I'm like, what the like, now I go, what the fuck's that mean? Well, I didn't say that when I was 8, because
Yeah,
I didn't know that word back then when I was 8. I'm like, I didn't ask for more clarification. I was like, That's deep. And but I mean, I guess what he meant is you'll feel it in your belly. You'll have a knowing. You know,
Yeah, there
like
you go.
yeah, you know, and it's like so dad was teaching me about my intuition um in
It's
between
crazy
gears.
because it's crazy. We'd actually do it, but sometimes it's like what I talked about. Sometimes we just don't know. We don't know. We go through life already utilizing it, already understanding it, and already not even going with it. Especially when you're like, "Oh man, I should have did that." Well, how about you try going with that every now and then and start building up more trust into it. You know what I mean? And another thing I do with my kids is my 8-year-old. He's very good at Texas Hold'em. So I teach my kid through playing poker of utilizing intuition. One, he has to watch the tails. He watches emotions when he gets excited. When he knows he has good cards. So I'm utilizing that as a way of teaching them how to watch themselves, understand themselves, and how to read, but also understand the cards and get a feeling of whether or not your hand is good at the same time.
Yeah, you talk about emotions, how important that is in our lives and our
Yeah,
intuition. And yeah, like they're having a poker face. So like your
exactly.
experience, well, that's great training because you're experiencing emotion and you're not trying to suppress it. But I mean, you could, I guess, try and suppress it if you're trying to keep the poker face, but you're trying to internalize it and feel through it. And yeah, that could be
Mhm.
a real,
You're
yeah,
flowing with it. You're like, I'm
yeah,
excited, but but you're being in the present. You're not getting
yeah,
consumed with that and
yeah.
letting everyone know that. But you're like, okay, I have a good hand. But
Yeah, I
every
got four
I,
aces
I
and
know I'm going to be still connected, and I'm still going to be present, and I'm still going to see how it all plays out and see if I can win that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not just throwing this thing down with a big grin on my face and someone else
I
has
know,
got
crossing your
something that beats
fingers.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just yeah. Goes back to that old Kenny Rogers. Was it Kenny Rogers had that song out many years ago about called The Gambler? And it was a
Oh
song
yeah,
all
yeah.
about, never, all the different tips and tricks on playing cards. Yeah, interesting. So talking about children, if you could go back in time and visit yourself, say in your early teenage years, just think about that young Eric whose hormones were starting to rage, couldn't wait for muscles to properly form, hair to grow on the face. I mean, this is how I was. I'm assuming most boys were like that. What emotions were you going through as a teenager? And what would you now say to that teenage, say 13, 14-year-old version of Eric?
Well, I would say to trust my intuition. I had a lot of intuitive hits when I was in high school, and they were like playful things. They were like, "Oh, I think this girlfriend's gonna break me up with me." You know what I mean? But they were like small intuitive hits that I would get in the gut. Like I would feel like something is like gonna happen, and then I'll get a phone call or I'll get a note saying, "I don't want to be with you no more." You know what I mean? Like it's so small and micro, but those are all like intuitive hits in some way or another. And I would tell myself back then, like, look, go with it. And that's why I always talk about like the younger we can learn this, to trust it, to be aware of it, to notice it, to trust it, the more we can just be in it. And I would tell myself that, like, hey, look, what your dad is teaching you and what you're learning, and you've already using it, and it's already like I think there was a time I almost got kidnapped too, that I ended up using my intuitive hit, yeah, as well, and I got myself out of that as well, and even also in avoiding areas where there was some drug deals going on, where I was like, I don't know, fourth grade, fifth grade, or whatever, where something told me to stay away from that area, that something was going to occur or happen. So it's like I know it was happening, but like I said, I just didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just like, instinct. You know what I mean? Like we say, oh, it's instinct, it's instinct, it's instinct. But you know what? There's more to just instinct and our five senses, or our six senses.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, six, maybe seven, eight, nine, ten
Yeah, that's what I'm
senses. Who
saying. Who
knows?
knows,
Yeah.
man? Yeah. Well, as we evolve, who knows what, you know what I mean? As human beings.
Exactly.
We're
Yeah,
running around doing flips like Jedi.
yeah, yep, exactly. So in the intro there, the bio you gave me, you talked about sparking some hearts.
Mhm.
You want to talk more about that? Tell us what you're up to there.
Well, I started realizing as I started really working on myself and understanding myself and my gifts and my capabilities is that I found that I needed to have unconditional love with myself. And I know that's like a fancy highlighting word, like have unconditional love, have grace or whatever though. But it's really, really going within and loving yourself with all the flaws, all the weaknesses and everything, and standing in the light, standing as like the lighthouse, standing as in being of an ability of conditional love. And I realized by me doing that, just the connections and the people I encountered and the conversations I have, there is a synchronicity, a connection of an energetic flow between one another where I can see the spark in them. I can see the joy. I can see the life go back into them of curiosity that there's more to what they know in their life.
Mm. Yeah, that accepting who we
Mm,
are with our flaws, accepting others with their
correct.
flaws. That to me, that's uh, a great angle, great definition on that unconditional love for ourselves and for
Yeah, because
others.
we
It's just
yeah, we can
yeah,
be I've always been so critical. And like I said, I'm all talking like all soft and like, whatever though. But in the military, I was a different person. My nickname was the enforcer, killer koala. I was just like this guy that would just like go, 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 and now to want just I want peace, you know. I mean, I look at I want kindness, not niceness, kindness. You know what I mean? Because if I need to defend, if I need to defend my family, I'm more than welcome to stand up and defend and do what I need to do as a man. But it's that kindness that I give, and the boundaries I set as well within myself.
yeah, yeah. No, that's yeah, that's the wisdom of the ages and things like that. Yeah. So what sort of world, like having your military background and then all the other things that have happened to you before and after that, what sort of world do you see us living in right now? Is it good, bad, ugly? Is it magnificent? How does Eric see the world?
I see the world right now of possibilities, but it's up to people, light workers, people that want to do good in the world to really rise. Like I said, I was at the point where I was just kind of like watching back, seeing the world burn, you can say metaphorically, you know what I mean? Until I realized that, you know what, I need to step up. I need to, it's not, and the thing is, it wasn't about me, it's knowing that what I can do. It's like, what happens if I don't go out and help the people that I can help. You know what I mean? Because it's not about me most of the times. It's about me taking care of myself, understanding myself, continuing to grow, continue to educate myself in those ways. But it's really just stepping out to really connect. And like I said, my thing is spark some hearts because I think once you stand uh, in the presence of people with that vibration, just being there. I know in the Bible it says something about we're fishers of people, not we don't clean the fish, and I finally understand what that meant. It's just being in the present. It's not trying to fix. It's not trying to solve. It's just being there for individuals. And I think when more people go out there and do that, I think that's where the world can make a shift and change. And I think the world is doing that right now. And I know there's a conflict going on between like the energetic and the physical, though. But I think the energetic is starting to really push its way out there, and we need it. People of all over the world needs to come out and really, really trust in themselves and what they can be and what they can do and how they can impact and make a ripple in the world. And it takes if you can say it takes a lot like an army of light workers. You know what I mean. You can say that really want to strive for that and do that and to be there to be the beacon for people.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and accepting how the world is and accepting how
Correct.
we are and just yeah, and not getting in anxiety about how things are. It's just this is how it is, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all good, and it's maybe not as bad as we think. There's a lot of things going on that look like it's not as nice. I had coffee with a friend the other day, and we get together probably 3 or 4 times a year for coffee. And is another gentleman about my age, and
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about stuff and how the world is, and there's it's easy to get caught up that things aren't right, and there's this maybe this group of people who are just not being nice and all that. And I said to him, yeah, but just got to remember, if there is this group of people who are trying to make our lives not nice, they got to play by the same rules,
Hmm.
like as
Yeah.
us. They
Yeah.
don't have any special powers, but they possibly understand the rules better than we do. And I
Hmm.
said, just imagine you're in a car race, like if you what he's got young boy, he's got three boys as well. I
Yeah.
said, you ever played a computer game with them, like car racing game? I said, just pretend you're on a dirt track racing a car, and one of these people who is out to make everybody's life suck and who actually
Hmm.
understands the rules of the game a little bit better than we do, but they
Yeah.
still got to play by the same rules. They
Correct.
come up to you in that dust and they hold two fingers up to you with a crazy smirk on their face and they yell out to you, I'm 2 laps ahead of you. And you get angry and you put your pedal to the
Hmm.
metal and you're trying to make up those 2 laps and you crash and then you get towed back to the pits and your pit crew go, what are you doing? Why did you
Yeah.
do that? And he goes, oh, that guy came up and I'm 2 laps behind him. No, you're not. You're a lap ahead of him.
Yeah.
He deceived you. He tricked
Yeah.
you. And you're like,
Hmm.
head in the hands. Oh, I let I let that person deceive me. And that person didn't run me off the track. They didn't, hit their car and push me into a
Yeah.
tree or something like that. I did it to myself because I wasn't as perceptive. I wasn't using my intuition. I
Yeah.
wasn't staying,
Hmm.
I wasn't just, I didn't accept the fact that if what they said was true, I'm 2 laps
Yeah.
behind, fine. I'm driving as fast as I can in this race and I'm doing what I've trained to do. So seeing the world how it is, the world, if things aren't how you want them to be, accept how it is and
Hmm.
and if you think there are forces out there that are against us, they're playing by the same rules. They
Correct.
don't have superpowers. They can be tricky, they can be deceptive, but the main thing they're going to try and do is make you trip over your untied shoelace. They can't even untie your shoelace for you. You just didn't tie it properly in the first place. But they're not going to look down and tell you, oh, your shoelace is undone. They're
Hmm.
going to look down, see it undone, and grin and walk off and hope that you trip over it. You know, but so life's not as bad. It's there's
Yes.
we are as powerful, if not more powerful, particularly when we play the game nicely. You're talking about kindness before. I believe things like that, living in a kind, compassionate sort of way to others, it is a superpower. It
Yeah.
gives us our, if you could see our energy when we are compassionate, when we're smiling at people at the supermarket, um, I believe our energy is, enlarged and it's more powerful when we're in those situations. So we have the
Hmm.
choice to make life great or otherwise.
Yeah, I realize more and more that it's easy to hurt, it's easy to kill, it's easy to do negative than to do good. And
Yeah.
once you start understanding that, I mean, that's within itself its own perspective. And another thing is that once you start increasing your intuition and start understanding yourself and how you walk in the world, you can see the smokes and mirrors. You can see the shifts. You can see the dog and pony shows. And then you talked about navigation. Well, if you can see all that, then you can navigate through all those obstacles and avoid what you need to avoid and connect to the people that you need to be genuinely connected to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, last thing I wanted to talk to you about is your book that you've got out, and then you've got another book coming out. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And me and my wife wrote in a book called Ignite Your Courage, and I wrote in a book called Ignite Your Purpose. And now we're coming together to write a couples book called the Power Couple Connection. And it's something that we're putting together as two real in our relationship with our kids growing as entrepreneurs and us going through our journey as trying to figure out life and three boys and me intuitive and my wife not so intuitive, believe it or not. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to like grow into that and understand each other. She's like real logical. Like things have to be like I don't understand what you're saying. But with the science and with the quantum, with the heart, like all the information that's out there now, we're developing a good, power, couple connection as far as she's like, I'm getting it, I'm understanding it. So now she's healing and I'm continuing to heal and we're trying to grow together in a great relationship. So which we got the opportunity now to go be speaking in Las Vegas in May 16th to to speak to the world about that.
Nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So I'll put that info in the show notes.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to, you know,
Yes. Yeah, most
brief?
definitely. I just want to give like another perspective on how I teach my kids as far as how we need to be careful on how we're programmed into the world. Like I listen to a lot of sound now, a lot of music, a lot of frequencies. Not too much with the word verbiage because you got to be careful with that as far as you be attracted to the sound, but the message is kind of off. You know what I mean? So it gets kind of miscrewed, whatnot. So I use a TV remote, and I'm like, look. TV is like television, right? You're telling a vision, right? And then you go to the guide and it's guiding you, guiding to wherever you want. And you got the channels that you're channeling. And then you find a program. Okay, well, when you find a program, say if it's a horror movie, right? You're going to be scared, right? Then you're going to be careful of, okay, I need to make sure the lights are on or whatever. So we need to be careful on how we tell our vision within ourselves and how we guide through that and how we channel and what programming that we want. So as we walk in the world, we are prepared to it. So we got to make sure what we listen to, what we watch, our surroundings, our awareness, and what we're noticing, and what we trust within ourselves.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's all of that is very, very important. And the frequency of all those things and all that sort of stuff. And it just when you're saying all that's a little bit off track, but it just reminded me of something
Mm.
that I recently turned 60 and my children bought me a sound bed. So
Mm-hmm.
I've now got, so instead of speakers, there's transducers, and they're actually
Mm.
made for gamers to screw onto your lounge chair when you're gaming and you feel all the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
vibrations. So now I've got them under this bed, and I've got special music I plug in and lay on it, and I've got 15 or 30-minute sessions, and so the whole bed's vibrating to the music. So like
Yes,
these frequencies have been, people have done a lot of research. So it's
yes,
yeah, it's
yeah.
I'm it's not just the vibe, man. It's like you can really feel it. Like, and it's beautiful. It's like being massaged all over. It's from head to foot. It's beautiful.
I heard
So
something. It's an analogy where the physical world basically is a slowed down frequency where it becomes matter. You know what I
mm,
mean? Yes, and a complete spectrum analysis of the physical matter world is the periodic table. That's how it's. That's what we utilize to
right.
evolve, to debate in modern technologies or whatnot. And now we have the quantum physics where it breaks down on a subatomical level the atom that goes into vibration, energy. Einstein said it. Tesla said it. So it's all coming to light. And the people are searching it. And like I said, a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. And that's what me and others are trying to do out there to bring to the world and know that, hey, look, we got your back on that. You know what I mean? But it's up to you to I will help you along, but it's everyone's is there to figure out their own journey in their own life as well.
Yeah, that's right. There's so much more out there. And
Yeah.
all these, I got to keep reminding myself every time I read something new, some new discovery, some new way to do something. It's just like, we're still scratching the surface. This is not
Yeah.
the answer. This is like heaps better than it was. Like when I lay on my sound bed, I had a session about an hour ago for 15 minutes and it's just like, oh, this is so good. But it's like, like in 50 or 100 years' time, it'll be like, oh, that was nice back then, but now we've got this, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, because who would have thought 50 years ago of laying on a mattress and having that? I mean, the only time you ever saw that was like on some cheap movie where, you put a quarter in the thing in the honeymoon suite bed and the whole bed vibrated, and that
Yeah.
was like a weird thing. But this has got, I mean, the sound frequencies going through this thing, it's designed to be healing,
Yes.
designed to open your pineal gland, designed for all of these things. Yeah, and we're still just barely scratching the surface, of
No,
what
I definitely
can
love
happen.
sound, and I'm really researching and really getting into that area of how healing it is, at
Yeah.
many levels of frequencies. And I was watching a video where they had this vehicle. It's like a low rider, and they had like subwoofers and whatnot. And these subwoofers are like boom, 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 and you can literally see the entire like the transmutation of the energy of it just vibrating and going. And there's imagine frequency and vibrations are very powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very,
Very.
very. And again, if like those people who can see auras and can see into
Yeah.
that, they've got that slightly wider light spectrum. They can, they if they watch that, they would see it. Like they'd be like,
Yeah.
or they'd go, "Oh, that's not a good tune to lay down
Mhm.
to." It's And I'm sure if I hooked this thing up to some sort of crazy music, it would you'd be feeling it vibrating, but afterwards you wouldn't be feeling so good. You'd be
No, and I and
exposed
I
to something.
and I was running into some studies of where like words, like we have to learn spelling words, right? Spelling words, like we're making a spell, and how words can hurt, and I remember I forgot who it was, but they had three jars and it was full of rice. And one will speak not good things, and one will not say anything at all, like ignore it. And the other one will say bad things. And the one will go moldy, one will just be disgusted, and the other one will actually ferment. It's very, very interesting how powerful words are too, and they say people hurt people. That's a saying that's been said for years. Same as go with your heart, go with your heart. And now we know that heart is the heart brain. You know what I mean? The heart is the heart, and the brain is the warehouse that sends all the information, and we transmit, receive, reground. It's pretty cool once you get into it and really how we're designed and how we need to be in the world. But we kind of like
Mm.
learn the opposite. We learn how to be in a system, in a box, and then we realize there is no box. There's not even thinking outside the box. There's not even there's no box because I used to say, oh, I got to think outside the box, and then something came to me like a download saying there is no box. The box was designed. There's no box, and I
It's
was
an
like,
illusion. Yeah,
yeah, it's an illusion. It's nothing. We're
yeah,
just walking who we want to be. So,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah. Well, that's excellent. That's great. And so, for the men out there who are listening in today, I think we've Eric shared some pretty cool insights into how men can be. And like when he first talked about his dad, teaching him as a child, I'm thinking, oh, lucky bugger. Like, I never had that. And then uh, a little bit more, I was like, no, you did have that. Your dad. And so let's say to the men out there, think back in your life. Who who was it when you were a child who may have shared some insight for you that you may not, as how do you say it, Eric? You don't know what you don't know. You,
yeah, people just don't know what they don't know.
yeah, yeah. And you could really already have that leading, that inkling, that whatever. And it could have already been directing you down that path as a young child without you realizing it. So, yeah, that was an eye opener for me.
And as you understand your intuition and you start decluttering the old you and becoming your new self, you're going to start realizing, you're going to start connecting the dots of all the way back into where in your life were all those little nuggets that you didn't realize before that were always there. It's always there. It's just we just didn't have the right lens before.
Mm. Yeah, like our guardian angels, our
Yeah.
guides, our whatever have just been constantly there, spoon feeding us, just keeping us, yeah, keeping us going, feeding us stuff, almost like working those intuitive muscles when we didn't realize, so that when we get to our older, more experienced years, it's easy to keep. It's like learn to ride a bike. It's
I know.
it's always there. Yeah, yeah,
And I remember sometimes I go through my struggles or my trials and errors, and the times I don't listen, and I can see my guardian angel be going like, "Oh, when is he
yeah,
going to get it?" Like just they're going like, "Well, you almost had him this day. Well, let's try
yeah.
again tomorrow."
Yeah, we had him right on the edge. He was just about to get it, and then he just turned around and walked off. And I was like, we're going to start again. Here we go. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think they're quite patient.
Yeah, they gotta be really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in guardian angel training school, like patience is sort of one of the main things they got to learn. Yeah. Yeah. All right, mate. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for your time. And yeah, absolutely enjoyed it catching up with you again. And next time we have you on the podcast, you'll be further down the road, half a dozen books under your belt, whatever. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate being on here.
Yeah, I have fun in Vegas talking with your wife. That's in May. Yeah,
Yeah,
16th of May, was it?
yeah, May 16th and 17th.
Excellent. Yeah, have a great time there. All right, mate. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Well, we're at the end of another thought provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition, it will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.